this is a question that came in from a company that hasn't needed to do marketing in the past. And they just said, we're beginning to think that more about marketing. Our business has always been busy, but now it's starting to slow down. What would be a good first start? So great question. So obviously, if you've never needed marketing before, my assumption is that you have good word of mouth out there. You're in a community that knows about your business and that you have done a lot of things well that you haven't needed marketing up to this point. So that's a very positive first thing because you can use that now in your marketing. So first of all, I would say you definitely want to, depending on what you're doing, if you're trying to run a promotion or something like that, obviously we could build an ad around that, but we need to figure out why you're not getting ads. Is the traffic to your, first thing I would look at is just what's happening. Is the traffic to your website down? Have the posts you've been putting on social media been getting less traffic, like less response, less engagement? Have you been getting less phone calls? Are you showing up well in search results? So the first thing I would do is try to analyze what exactly is happening. Like if you're not getting the results you were getting, let's try to figure out what has changed. So and a good example of that would be like, let's say that you were always showing up at the very top of Google search results, but now you noticed a competitor is showing up higher than you, or maybe that you've never had to pay for ads and you were showing up number one, but now that you notice there's a new competitor in town that's actually paying for Google AdWords so that he's coming up or she's coming up ahead of you. So they're now coming up in the top position on Google where you had previously been coming up. That could be a relevant factor because maybe you were getting a lot more of those clicks or a lot more of those phone calls in the very beginning because you were always showing up at the top. Same thing goes for the map pack or, basically what's derived from your Google My Business page. Where are you showing up there? Are there people that have creeped in and got ahead of you on that? Could that be affecting how many people are calling you or how many people are reaching out? Very well could be. So that's the very first thing you want to look at. Look at the traffic to your website. Has that went down? Is there things that we could be doing with regard to SEO that wouldn't even necessarily be paid, but get you back on track? How long has it been since you've updated your website? How long has it been since you've updated your Google My Business page? Are you adding content? All those things would go into just trying to identify what has changed. You were getting the business that you wanted without paying for it, and now you're not. So what has changed with regard to that? That's the biggest thing that I would look at and then start working back from there. So if your traffic is down on the website and maybe your Google placement isn't what it was, we may want to consider doing Google AdWords or doing some SEO or doing some things with regard to increasing your positioning on Google. So that may be paid, that may be organic. If you haven't paid, but you haven't been doing anything, you haven't been adding anything to your website, you haven't been adding anything to Google My Business, my first step might be to try to do some of those things and see if that can get you the activity stimulated back up. The second step might be to resort to maybe doing some Google paid ads to get you back up at the top. If you were getting a lot better engagement on social media, now that has went away, that may have something to do with the type of content you've been posting. It may have something to do with the fact that you may just have to spend a little bit of money to get in front of the same number of people you were getting in front of organically before. Again, the number one thing you need to determine is what has changed. There's something on the back end of your business you should be able to figure out that's changed, and then figure out from there what actions you need to take. So it's not just a like one size fits all, like, hey, here's what you should do as far as a first step. It all, in my mind, if you have an existing business and something's changed, the very first thing we need to do is figure out what has changed so that then we can determine a strategy to address that particular thing. In this particular situation, the person was obviously getting good results at one point in time. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to figure out how to get them good results. We just have to put back in place the thing that was working for them before. And the idea would be that if you can get that back in line, that the good results would follow. So hopefully that answers your question. It's not as easy as obviously, hey, do this one thing and that's going to work for you, because sometimes it's not that simple. But I think that in this situation, it should be fairly easy to figure out what's changed, what's missing, and how you can proceed from there. And I always, obviously, if you can do some different things that don't cost you money and get those results back in line, all the better. But in some cases, you may have to spend a little bit of money because you just don't get the same organic reach on Facebook that you used to. So if you were getting a lot of leads from social media, you may have to spend a little bit of money to get the same results, even though you're doing a lot of the things the same way that you were doing them before and getting success. The way that Facebook's managing things has changed a little bit. So hopefully that helps.